Hello, everyone. You are listening to the C Squared podcast with Corey and Curtis. Today, we have another super awesome guest, so you don't have to put up with just us two. We have Michael Pementel from both Trouble Scene and Bloody Disgusting. He has a long career here in the journalism world. He's worked at a variety of publications, so he is here to offer his knowledge bombs. But before we get started, I do just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is cool.
Awesome. So the very first question we got for you is, we always get guests to do a little intro of themselves, like a little nutshell version of who they are in like 2 to 3 minutes. So if you can do that as a very first thing, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah. So I got my go with, I've been writing ever since, I want to say back in 2011, doing small stuff for blogs, I started with fiction and poetry and all that jazz, but then I moved to Chicago in 2012, went to Columbia College, got a creative writing degree, and stumbled into pop culture journalism and analysis. And I started with film and video games, but then just, I've been a hardcore music metalhead since high school, and a friend just randomly introduced me to a blog, which was called For the Love of Punk. And so I started there, did a couple articles, and that just kind of put the bug in my bonnet. And so since about 2015, I've just been going hard at it with music journalism. So I did For the Love of Punk for a while. I did a small blog called Dying Scene. And then I got my real big go in 2016 with Metal Injection. And I started writing with them for a while. And then I've been hopping around. I've done a little bit of stuff for Consequence of Sound. And primarily right now, as of the past 3 years, I've been with Bloody Disgusting. And for the past 2 years, been with Trouble Zine. And with Bloody Disgusting, I recently just introduced a new metal column, Haunted Riffs, and that's been really exciting for us.
Cool. Just as a follow-up before Corey does her next thing, you're not doing this as a full-time gig, are you? Like just a writing thing, or are you?
That's the goal. I'd love that, but no, I very much do a day job on top of all this other stuff.
Cool. Okay then.
We all.
Yeah.
Curtis is the lucky one here.
For sure. No, yeah. I mean, it's always a juggling act with most people I know. I know very few people who are able to do the writing full time.
Yeah. And so how did you get started at Bloody Disgusting, and how did the metal column come about there? Because I know it's primarily like film and TV over there at Bloody Disgusting, but obviously metal and horror has a lot of crossover. So how did all that come about?
Well, I mean, that's okay. Yeah. So that I'm not rambling here. So I was just with them because I ramble away. Perfect. I love rambling. That's a site very much like Metal Injection that I grew up with. Just as a teenager, like I would just frequently visit the site, being a metalhead and fan of horror. And so like I've just always been on their ass trying to like get on board. And I just got lucky. One day. I sent a pitch and their editor, John Squires, just super liked it. And then that brought me on board. The music thing was just that notion that you just brought up, that metal and horror go very very much like peanut butter and jelly together, if you will, with that metaphor. And I've always seen an opportunity for it to for just more expansion of content. I've seen it as a very creative thing that could have blossomed. And one of the owners of the site, Brad, he's a huge metalhead and just loves music. And I saw that from time to time, we would add music related stuff on there. And I'm just like, God, that would be really cool if we could just get like more music content and specifically more metal, because I not only see it to be like a fun, creative thing, but also like, if you will, for lack of a better term, kind of more of a business outgrowth with like bringing in new readers who say, love metal, but aren't too familiar with horror. And then also just kind of building upon that readership. So it was something I pitched a couple times and it got shot down. And so one day I just made a comment about, it was the new King Woman record. And Brad reaches out to me. He's just like, dude, I fucking love that record. I'm like, it's really good. I'm like, I've had the promo for a while. It's just fantastic. And he's like, would you like to write about it? I'm like, yes, I would.
That's awesome.
And so that's what got the conversation going, being like, this is something I've wanted to do for a while. Would you give me the keys? And that's how Haunted Rift started.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I have a quick question about that though. Do you, I'm trying to remember when it was. They used to regularly do metal and stuff back, I think it was like 2016, 2015 or something. Was that, do you know if the reason why they stopped doing that initially, or no?
I think it was not going to put words in anyone's mouth,
Sure.
but if it's who I'm thinking of, just scheduling, and busy. Yeah.
Cool. No worries. Okay. Well, can you kind of go into a little bit more detail on the, kind of like how metal kind of fits in over at Bloody Disgusting?
I've always, the way I pitched it is like when I did this big pitch thing, because I just like, as much as it's a good elevator pitch to say like metal and horror kind of go hand in hand, again, that peanut butter jelly mentality. What I personally, as an individual, am drawn to with my art and entertainment, whether it's art I'm creating or entertainment I partake in, is, and very, very much why I got into metal and just heavier forms of music, is because I just relate to that element that I just, excuse me if this is derivative, but the dark, I just kind of like, I have an attraction to the macabre. And a lot of my writing also involves topics of mental health and mental illness, whether that's about music or anything else. And that's what I kind of saw as the connection, that dark aspect, to including music. I'm like, this is a site where we're sometimes writing about like explicitly genre tropey things, but we're also talking about stories that involve some kind of extremely human element of the dark, like whether it's going through some kind of trauma or overcoming grief, if you will. And a lot of metal, I mean, again, you have your kind of more genre specific things, Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, stuff like that. But then you also just have a lot of stuff that is taking the tropey technical aspects of that kind of music that tells something a lot more darker and probably a little more intimate to the human condition. And that was my pitch. It's like, as much as I want to write album reviews, I also want to start conveying and providing features or interviews that speak to something a little more deeper, as well as like, we can ask you what your favorite horror movie is, but like, I want to go into like what makes your brain tick when writing something haunting or grim or like intimate like this. And that's, so ranting out of the way, that's kind of the more intimate core that I seen between two different mediums. They're essentially tackling the same subjects, obviously just different approaches, whereas one's more auditory and the other one has a few more layers to it.
Fair enough. That kind of leads into the next question that Corey had, actually.
Yeah. How do you kind of like, what is the kind of criteria that you have for bands that you choose to feature? So sorry.
Gazuta, you're all good.
So yeah, what kind of criteria do you have for the bands that you choose to feature in the column that you write?
Very much it's just been personal choice as far as like just stuff I really enjoy. Moving forward, as I am working on creating more content and getting our schedule more formulated, because this Haunted Riffs is only 2 months old at this point. Yeah. So my goal is to do it a hell of a lot more. And I am like, other than just like trying to do timely stuff, as far as like new releases and all that jazz, I am looking to expand upon bands that I think deserve more light. Obviously you can do stuff that gets you clicks. I've done a few things for that, like, bigger name artists, and I have some stuff in the pipeline that's like involving some big names. But I'd prefer to also shout out smaller bands and smaller artists. I made a jokey thing about this like a month ago for an article I wrote. I don't know if like subcolumns and columns are a thing, but I started this other thing where I am going to be highlighting like much, much, much smaller bands. And so like I go through Bandcamp and I look within genres I care about deeply. And I try to find something that's maybe not just your, I don't want to sound like an ass, but like more generic forms of death metal that might speak to something that's like thematically interesting or conceptually or narratively interesting. And that's what I kind of want to touch upon more. I want to touch upon bands that I feel like are speaking to something that clicks with me personally, whether it is something about like, psychologically or something going on in the world that isn't just like trying to be heavy for the sake of being heavy. Or on the flip side, to make it a little fun, or added fun, if you will. I want to find bands that are also touching upon like fun thematic and narrative elements that also kind of play into what horror is, like on a more kind of tropey genre level.
Yep. Cool. Moving along on that, I just lost my question here. So how do you prefer to be pitched?
How do I prefer to be pitched? I'm not picky. I really, there's no, I'm not picky. You can pitch me however you want to pitch me. Just don't be an ass, I guess. The only thing I get.
Oh, carrier pigeon, totally cool.
Carrier pigeon is fine. Again, there might be a time issue with that if you need something up. But no, I am like, again, whether it's you sending me an email, if it's you just sending me a DM on Twitter, I'm not gonna complain about it. My only one like super small gripe is just getting shit I don't care about, which I get super frequently for some reason. That's it.
So you don't want me to send you the new Britney Spears?
That's something I care about. That's something I care about. I mean, like, so when it comes to something like pop or like rap or country music, I have very niche tastes within those genres, like very niche. I'm not likely to cover them just because I don't consider myself, excuse me for the obnoxiousness, an expert or informed enough to write a piece, unless it's like, you know, a rapper back from the 90s who I love, or like some 90s pop, you know, I could do something like that. But like, when I find myself just itching to do something that's different and not metal, and like I cover a folk record, that's fine, because that's just something I wanted to do as a one-off. But then I get flooded with the most bubblegum bullshit that is absolutely outside my wheelhouse. And just like, I'll never know how to write that. Or I could, it just kind of takes away from the work I'm trying to get done and accomplished.
Fair. Now, how do people know what you care about?
I feel like I actively put it out there. I feel like if you just, I feel like I'm actively talkative enough on social media. You know, I follow enough colleagues and enough colleagues follow me, but also just the body of work. Like when you look at like what I've done over 6 years, I feel like it speaks for itself. And maybe that's obnoxious and assumptuous, but yeah.
No, I mean, Google or social media search of a journalist, I mean, you'd think it'd be basic.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
Okay. I think Corey's got the next question.
Because it is, well, it's something that we have in common. Because I also work for Metal Injection and stuff. And so I would like to ask my fellow writers, what is the worst pitch or the worst mistakes you see people making in their pitches to you, other than pitching you something you just don't care about? What are the big pitfalls people fall into when pitching you?
You know, I don't know if this is like sidestepping what you're looking for. The initial pitches I've gotten, I've never had an actual issue with. What I've had an issue with is those who get harassy if you don't answer.
Oh, dear Lord, yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
We actually haven't covered that this much on this show.
Yep.
It's mind-boggling to me, like, because I work in a day job where people just get so it's bizarrely angry over this, like the smallest shit. And just like, again, if you're someone who is writing and you're covering assignments, and whether it's you sending in your own pitches or you're keeping an eye out for, you know, stuff that may be sent your way, you had hundreds of emails coming to you a day sometimes, and you can't just get to everything. And so thankfully, I've had very few instances where someone has followed up with me and been an absolute total ass about it and be like, why aren't you getting back to me? Or like the funny ones are being like, you know, this is a really big name, right? How come you haven't answered me? Or how come you're not like, how come you haven't like got back to me? And I'm just like, dude,
You know who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's nothing against you or your artists. It's just probably something that I don't cover. Like, you know, another thing I really don't do too much. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I do it from time to time, but I also personally don't do a lot of like bigger radio name artists, with certain exceptions. Like I have extreme nostalgia for Slipknot. And so like any opportunity to do that, I'm going to do that. But like, yeah, I've gone in, and I'm not going to name names, but I've gotten some like of the more radio name metal bands, and I'm just like, it's cool, good for you, not my thing. But then they'll be like, why haven't you replied to me? Or one that I did do, and they're just like, why is it on page X and not on page Z? I'm like, that's not in my control. I have no say over that one.
Yeah, I fall in the same category as you, where I purposely don't cover the bigger bands. And it's nothing against them. It's nothing, like, I'm not saying, oh, because you're popular, then you're sellouts or whatever. It's just that they don't need me to cover them, because somebody, like, everybody else is going to be covering them. So I much rather go for the little guy. So I fall into that same category. But yes, I would agree, the harassing type thing gets very, very old. I think the worst one I had was a PR after she didn't get a response, ended up following up and CCing both the band and a charity that they were working with.
Dude.
Like, calling me out, like, why aren't you responding? And then CCing all of these people to show them that I wasn't responding. And it's like, ugh, cringe.
That is bullshit. I can't say it's ever been that bad for me. No.
That was the worst one that I ever got.
Wow. Damn.
But for those of you who are listening, don't do that.
No. I said this the other day at my day job, but it's like, it's shocking what kindness will get you, because sometimes it'll get you what you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, though, it's got to be genuine, because I've also experienced, when I was a writer, I haven't written in a long time, where the PR is kind of like being nice, but you know what I mean?
They're kissing your ass. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's an ass kissing, and it's pretty ingenuine, and you're like, fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you.
No, for sure.
So you kind of want to have it where it's like politeness, but it's not too buddy.
Yeah.
And not, I guess, rude or anything like that, correct?
Exactly. And, obviously, I think this goes without saying between the three of us, but like, there are obviously, you have maybe perhaps some PR people where you are buddy, and that comes from years of a relationship. Like, I have people in this industry being like, I will check out anything they send. I may not cover it, but they're always going to hear from me, because they're on a priority list, because we not only have a great professional relationship, but we also have a friendly one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it goes a long way, but at the same time, it's got to be for real, not ingenuine, no ass kissing, anything like that.
Well, you can sense that stuff easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Corey, what else we got for pitching bitches do we want to cover with him?
I think that is it. I mean, that's a pretty big one that we haven't touched on a whole lot of, the harassing follow-up. So just don't do that. Just don't do it.
So we're almost out of questions. I do have a final one, unless Corey does, which is basically, we didn't really cover, like, with the music that you get pitched, does it have to be horror based, or does it not matter when you do Bloody Disgusting? Can you kind of go over that?
No, yeah, that does not matter at all.
Okay.
Brad, who oversees like my music stuff, whenever I email it into him, super open to stuff. Yeah. There's no boundaries to that. It does not have to be horror based.
Does it help?
No, yeah. It's something where I thankfully have I have a lot of creative control. Like, those dudes have always been super good to me. So I have a lot of creative control to do whatever. I even have some goals. I made a point of noting this in like my introductory article for the column, but like, I also intend on just doing some non-metal stuff at some point.
Nice.
Yeah. Like, I know there are readers who had a little bit of issue with like the King Woman stuff, and it's like, tough shit. That's an amazing record, and she's an incredible artist. So it's like, I have stuff more along those lines that I am looking to cover.
Cool.
But yeah, I probably have no bounds outside of doing something that's like shockingly contrasts that. Like, if I were to like bring up something that's like a modern day NSYNC, I don't think that would work. Yeah,
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
hopefully not a horror spin, but as far as music is concerned, I have experienced no limits. Yeah.
Okay, this could open to some strange stuff, but okay.
It could, yeah. I love strange shit, so always send me strange shit.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got for questions. Corey, do you have any final questions?
I am good on my end. I think that that's some good information for people.
Cool. And then, Michael, do you have any final words that you want to offer people?
I mean, I just, something I've been working through lately, I've been doing a little bit of like some volunteer work for a label, and I've been going at this for 6 years, and it's surreal. It's surreal to like think about how far and how much I've gotten to do over 6 years, and I'm really proud of it. So I just, anyone who listens to this and has read my stuff, I'm just super thankful that people are into it for whatever reason. I enjoy it, and I have some really super cool stuff that I'm excited to share by next month. So yeah, really just thankful for the opportunity to be talking with y'all.
Awesome. And we're going to have you back at some point too. And with that, we're going to end off with party on, Corey.
Party on, guys.